Hey everybody, hi. Welcome to October 1st, my favorite time of the year, and I have a fabulous lineup for everybody for this month and a great show lineup, and these are shows that you won't see anywhere else but on ParanormalZoneTV. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks again, everyone, for being here on my show. This is Paranormal Zone TV, the Do You Believe original web series. And for those of you who may be joining us for the first time, if you would please subscribe to my channel and give my show a like, I'd really appreciate it. And thanks to my mods tonight. Tonight, I am really excited to bring back Deborah Moffitt to the show. I aired a show with her last year. It was a show on her first book, A Deadly Haunting, which is, she has a story to tell us like you've never heard before. It's something I've never ever heard. It is the most interesting, complicated, bizarre story I've ever heard. And she will go over her story tonight. She has also written a second book, The Unwelcomed. And I understand that this book goes in further detail that the first book didn't go into. So everyone, let's welcome Deborah Moffitt to the show. Deborah, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'm just thrilled to have you back on the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Now, there may be some people that haven't seen the first show that we aired together. And by the way, I am going to put a link to the first show. That show is my highest second rated show on my YouTube channel. And I have over 1 million viewers. And I will put the link up. So Deborah, do you want to start telling everybody about your story? Because there may be some of the people that haven't heard your story before or maybe may not remember it.
All right, let me start. I'll just give you some background where it started back in 1987. I came out to California. I married my husband in 1987. My husband's family lived in Rancho Cucamonga. They had 3 houses side by side right on a corner. My husband and I moved in with his mother and father in the middle. He owned the house on the other side. We rented that out. The house on the other side of the house used to belong to his grandmother. Now that's where this all started. This started before 87, before I even was in California. Back in 1984, I believe it was, my mother-in-law's mother suffered a stroke, and they hired a Guatemalan housekeeper to take care of her. Well, from what the researchers can deduct is that during this time, she practiced some type of Santeria. And I don't believe, from what I've been told, she did this with any ill intent. What she wanted the grandmother to stay alive so she could keep her job. Unfortunately, something went wrong, and she allowed something to come through to this dimension. And back at that time, she even warned my mother-in-law. She said, I'm sorry, don't go into that house, because her mother had died. She said, don't go into that house. I'm sorry, but there's evil there now. And she left that same night this happened, and they never heard from her again. Well, back then, the first thing that my husband could relay to me that happened, they went up to the house and saw a ball of energy follow this lady out of the house. She was running out of the house screaming that something was chasing her. And then a few little things happened, like radios turning on and off, but then everything subsided. When I came out in 1987, that's when things started to manifest again. We rented the house next to where we lived to a gentleman. My husband had a large sports collection. He kept it down in his house in one room, and we rented the rest of the house out. But we went down there periodically to check on the sports collection. It started, the one day we went down to check on the collection. We opened the door to the den where the sports memorabilia was, and this was kept locked so nobody could get in it. And something had taken all his bobblehead baseball statues and put them on the floor in the shape of a triangle. Now, that was the very first paranormal event I witnessed myself. We have thought, at first you automatically think, well, the tenant must have came into the room and did this, because you don't even think about anything paranormal happening. But he swore he never went in the room, it was locked. So, we just said, well, make sure you stay out of there. within a week's time, we start getting objects from his house in our house, and they're called apports.
Right.
I didn't even know what they were at the
Now,
time.
I have 3 of those. I have the bell. I have the bell that was apported.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have any history or any information on that bell?
That I don't know. I can't. This happened 25 years ago. So certain little things I can't remember. If I concentrate on it, it'll come to me. But I don't really remember where the bell came from. Okay. What I do know that the things that were being apported at that time were from the tenant's house, and they were apported up to my mother-in-law's bedroom. This was one of the things apported. My mother-in-law had a chest next to her bed where she had all her religious statues. One morning she woke up and she found a pair of underwear on a statue of Jesus. Now, we at the time, we thought, well, one of us is playing a joke or being funny, because nobody broke in the house, so we couldn't understand it. Well, then the next day, more things started coming up, and more things started coming up from the house. And finally, some things came that had his name on it, so we realized where they were coming from.
Well, Deborah, the pictures I have of objects that were apported into your home, at what point did these show up at your home?
Now, there's 2 different types of reports that we had. One was when we moved, and they were reports that we don't even know where some of them came from. The reports that we were experiencing at this time were from the gentleman's house next door.
Oh, okay, so I don't have any pictures of those then.
No, because we didn't take pictures of it, because we didn't even know what they were.
Okay.
The next thing that happened, we went down at his house, and over all the light switches, someone had started putting symbols. And one of the main symbols was a triangle and a tail. Well, we confronted the tenant about this again. He said he knew nothing about it, but he was moving. He wouldn't tell us anything that was going on in the house, just that he had to leave. So within like 2 days, he was gone. We went back to the house the next day to clean. He had kept it in good shape. We went back to clean because we were going to rent it out again. And my husband went in one room, and I looked up in the living room at a shelf that was at the top of the... You'd have to get a ladder to get up to it. That's how high it was. And I noticed it needed dusting. I turned around and told my husband something. I looked back. Within seconds, everything on that shelf, and there were a lot of different statues, were turned backwards. Now, my husband at the time didn't see the statues before when they were facing front way. So he thought, oh, the tenant probably did it, because at the time we were blaming everything on him because we didn't understand anything about the paranormal.
Deborah, you had mentioned about an arrow with a tail. Now, I do have a picture of that. Was that in your home, or was that in the rental?
The very first one started over a light fixture, like on and off switch down at the rental property. But that was his symbol, his demon symbol. And when we moved, he put that throughout our house.
Were you ever able to find out what that symbol meant?
Do you know what? I have asked that. I really don't know too much more about what happened at that time now than I did then. No one has any answers for me. I would love someone to be able to tell me some of the answers. Now, Todd Hendrickson is a researcher. He has done quite a bit of research into this, and he can't find what that symbol is. He believes it's symbol, it's mark. Yeah, there it is. That's at the other house when we moved, and that's the mark he put all over our house.
But nobody knows what that symbol means.
No. No. A lot of people speculate, but no one can actually say this is what it means.
Did you ever ask this spirit that was... Now, you also gave this... You called it a demon. You gave him a title of Mr. Entity. That's the name.
Mr. Entity, that's what I called him.
And he responded to that name?
Yes.
Did you ever ask him what any of these symbols meant?
He told us what he wanted us to know. If I asked him questions that he wanted to answer, he would answer. If I asked him questions and he didn't want to answer, he just ignored what I asked. So I knew what he was going to ask. Some things to do about symbols and about what he was and things he didn't want to talk about. But other things he would talk for days on end about. So it was just what he wanted to answer and what he would answer.
At what point, Deborah, can I start showing these pictures that I got off of your website and from the Deadly Haunting book.
Oh, you can show them anytime you'd like.
Now, you wrote the book, The Unwelcomed, which is a sequel to The Deadly Haunting, or why did you write this second book?
Well, the first book actually was based on a true story, but it's fiction. Although 99% of it is based on fact. The author kind of elaborated on things to try to make it easier to understand because it's a very complicated story. My new book, I wanted to do, when I first started out, what I wanted to show people were the pictures that I took. And I ended up writing a book to go with it.
I see. All right, well then let's start with some of these pictures. I'm going to show the one where the entity wrote on the mirror. Now, did you tell the viewers about how this entity communicated on the bathroom mirror with your father-in-law?
He started out talking, just writing on the mirror. He wasn't directing it at anyone. He was just stating things on the mirror. The first thing he said was, "Talk to me." So he wrote that on the mirror with soap. And I remember he didn't actually start communicating with us on the mirror until we moved to our new house, because we moved away from the other house. At the time we were going to move anyway, but in the moving process we also hoped we could get away from the entity.
Now, at what point did you find this who took this picture?
I did. I took the pictures on the mirror, most of the pictures I took.
All right. Did you know did you question to where these messages were coming from?
Oh, yes. We knew that we had some type of spirit or entity, but when my mother-in-law first called me upstairs, because this writing first started upstairs in their bathroom to their bedroom. That's where it started. And like I said, the first thing it said was, like, "Talk to me." It wanted to communicate, but it only wanted, at that time, it wasn't actually communicating as well as it was just like telling us. It was just not talking to us, it was talking at us. There wasn't any kind of really communication. It just stated things. The only thing, my father-in-law did ask it what its name was, and it wanted us to call him Prince.
Why do you think it wanted to call it Prince?
I don't know, but when we asked it its name for a while, then it said Prince. That's what it wanted to be called.
Oh, that's interesting. All this entity communication and the writing on the wall, he did more than that. But how did this all start? How did this all, besides with the caregiver, do you think it came from her? It started from her?
Well, I wasn't there at the time, so it already had started before I got there. But in '87, like I said, that's when the manifesting of the writing started when we moved. So after, he started in our house. He literally destroyed our new house. He would burn the symbol into the walls. He would gouge it out in the walls, like take pieces of plaster out. He cut pieces of rug out of the rugs, like 4-foot big pieces of rug out. He literally destroyed the house. Every day was repairing the house, trying to make it so it was livable.
I'm showing them a picture of a bedroom with paraphernalia on the floor and a statue on the bed. What is that all about?
As soon as I see the picture here, I'll tell you. But one of the bedrooms was downstairs, a guest room. Now, when my mother and father-in-law were upstairs and all this started to happen, the entity started to become really violent. Even more so. He started to destroy everything in their bedroom. It got to the point they weren't safe staying upstairs. So they moved downstairs with my husband and myself and into the master bedroom. Then for 6 years, we all lived together in one room. Okay, this was my mother-in-law's bedroom. Mr. Entity did not like religious statues. At first, she had all these raw religious statues and cards next to her bed, and that was the chest she used to have these on. Mr. Entity, at first, we used to take the religious items and make his triangle on the floor with the religious items. Next, he started throwing them around. And the next step, he would always snap their heads off and pull off their left arm.
Oh my God.
So that's what he finally, it was like a step. First he would use them to do his symbol, then he would throw them, and then he would just destroy them.
And he started out writing on the bathroom wall, and then have a picture of him writing on the microwave oven.
Right, he wrote anywhere he wanted, but most communication was in the bathrooms on the mirrors. That's where he did his major communication. Like I said, he put his symbols all over the house, but major communication were on the mirrors. And when he was upstairs, he used the bathroom mirror upstairs to communicate. When they left upstairs, because he actually took over our upstairs of our house, that became his. It was the upstairs. You couldn't even walk up the stairs that you didn't feel like this presence around you, menacing presence as you went up the steps. So we didn't even use our upstairs for 6 years. The upstairs belonged to him.
Now this writing, could anybody else in the house have done that?
You know, I can't say every bit. I know it was the entity, but we did do tests, because first thing you think of is, well, one of us is doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, you can't phantom. I couldn't phantom something that I couldn't see was communicating with me on a mirror. You just, it's like you can't rationalize it. So at first you look for ways that this could be done. The first time we checked, we cleaned the mirror. All four of us went into the other room and shut the door. Mr. Entity would not write in front of you. He would write when you turned your back or when you left the room. So we cleaned the mirror. The four of us went out together. No one else was in the house. We were alone. We counted like a minute, 2 minutes, opened the door, went back in, and he had written on the mirror. No one else had been in the bathroom. So we knew none of us were writing it.
How fast could he do that?
He could do it very fast. You could talk to him, leave the bathroom, wait like a minute, go back in, and the mirror was completely covered in writing.
Oh my God. And I have a picture, I guess it looks like he put symbols on a headboard. Scratch that into a headboard?
He did it headboard, he did it, our front door was brown, and he gouged all different symbols into the front door. No place was sacred. I mean, he mutilated the house.
Oh my God! So he would go from writing, he would go back and forth to symbols and to writing.
Right.
Oh.
And I found the way I tried to keep everything calm. I found that if I communicated with him, now this was to the point we communicated on a different level. Before we communicated on a different level, things really got bad when we were up in the new house. That's our front door.
Oh, that's the front door?
That's the front door.
Oh my God. Oh, it looked like a headboard to me.
No, because you can't get we couldn't get the whole door in and still see the symbols, so we went up close. I went up close to get them. But these are the type of symbols. He did all different types of symbols that I didn't recognize. I had no idea. The pentagram, of course, you see that a lot, so you understand that one.
Oh yeah, let me show that. Now this pentagram that he had made on the mirror, there's names on that.
Oh, now that was later on. See, you have to understand, this happened for 6 years. So these pictures aren't in order, and so some happened later on, some happened, when it first started. But that one, he made a circle with like a wagon wheel, and he put all different names in the wagon wheel, and it was like some of the names I knew who they were because he had referred to them before, and some of them I had no idea. Now it says on the one that's Letta on one corner, down there's Esther, and Meta was in this corner, and Andre, Henry, Peter, Jean. I don't know who most of these people are. And then in the middle, underneath everything, is a demon named Baal.
Oh.
Was that his name? I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know. I can't tell you because I don't know. I never learned the identity of Mr. Entity.
Now, I also have a picture. Then there it is, the arrow with the tail. This was on a bedroom wall, and more symbols.
Oh, yeah. He would put the one with the triangle with the tail. I mean, the one over the bed was like 3 feet tall. He did that one in spray paint. He did.
How the heck did he get spray?
Gouged out of the walls, but that was his symbol.
Oh my God! How did he get how could he do? Oh my God! Now spray paint. Now here's I guess this is up by the ceiling. He did the same symbols.
Right? Those were his symbols. He did some symbols in our living room and family room. The ceilings are like 22 feet high. They're really high. This room right here, where you're seeing now,
Yes.
these symbols were about a third of the way up the wall. Up at the top of the wall, way at the very top, he did other symbols. That was another way we can know we weren't doing it, because there was no way anybody could get up to the ceiling to do it.
Oh my
So
God!
this was in the one bedroom. He put these symbols over the door going in and out.
That is so freaky. And he would not respond to you about what those symbols were, especially the
No.
triangle with a tail. Oh
No,
my
he
God.
would not. If I asked him what it meant, he would just ignore me.
Did you ask him? Did you say, okay, explain this to me, what this particular symbol, and just write it on a mirror to let me know? Did you try
Right.
that?
To communicate with him, you would go to the mirror. Now, if I wanted to ask him a question, I would go to the mirror and talk to him. But he was with us no matter where we were in the house or outside the house. If we left the house, he went with us. If we went shopping, he was with us. We know he was with us because he would take things from where we were, like if we went to a restaurant, he would take the name tag of the lady that waited on us, and when we got home, it would be sitting on our kitchen table.
Oh my God! So he wanted you to know. He wanted
Right.
you to know.
Right, he wanted us to know we could not get away from him. I mean, he became our captor. We couldn't leave the house. We had to ask permission to use the cars because he would destroy the cars so we couldn't use them.
Oh my God!
He would break windshields, break mirrors, headlights. I remember one time I went in and asked him, Mr. Entity, I said, we have to go somewhere. Please don't touch the cars today because we have to use them. He said, okay, for you, I won't destroy the car today, but tomorrow I'm breaking the windshield. And the next day he broke the windshield.
That was horrible. That's absolutely horrible. Did you get anybody in to get help?
We went for 6 years, people all over the world to come to try to help us. We had the Warrens, Ed and Lorraine Warren. We had Carrie Gaynor from UCLA. We had Lloyd Arbach's group to come in to help us. We had voodoo ladies, witch doctors, magicians. We had anything you could think of to help us. No one could get rid of it. They would tell us, I remember Lorraine Warren told me, this is an ancient demon who's extremely powerful and intelligent.
And do you think that he was conjured up by the caretaker?
I think he'd explain the story to me. When I used to communicate, we would talk for hours because I found that if I talked to him, he would leave. See, it ended up when it started, like at the beginning. Remember, I was telling you upstairs what was happening. He then focused all his hatred on my mother-in-law, Lee. And this poor woman, you can't believe the things he did to her. He made it so she had no life. He destroyed her clothes. He would taunt her. He would take one of her shoes, so she only had one shoe. She couldn't carry money. He would destroy the money. Credit cards he would cut up. She'd go to bed at night, and under her pillow would be dirt or rocks or pieces of rugs he cut from other parts of the house. He went after this woman, and then it got to the point where he would put knives. He'd fix knives under chairs so that if she went to sit on them, she would sit on a knife. When she went to bed at night, we had to check her bed before she went to sleep because he would put knives through the pillows so if she put her head down, she'd get stabbed.
Oh my God. Now what about the knife on the wall?
Oh, yeah, she'd be sitting somewhere, all of a sudden she'd look, and next to her there'd be a knife in the wall. Or she'd be going to wash it, like in the bathroom or something, there'd be a knife in the wall. And these weren't our knives. We had a box of knives. He would bring knives. I don't know where he got them, but they weren't our knives. We had a whole box of knives that we collected from him. I mean, I don't know where he brought them, but there were hundreds of knives.
Oh my God. That must have been absolutely horrible.
Well, how he got the name Mr. Entity, I'll explain to you.
Okay.
Up until this time, Mr. Entity talked at us, not to us. He wouldn't answer questions, but he constantly referred to things he wanted done on the mirror, or he wouldn't let us do, or things that we would say. Now, he was very intelligent. My mother-in-law was intelligent also. She spoke 4 different languages. She spoke English, Spanish, Italian, and she spoke an old dialect of Albanian and Italian called Topresh. Now, my husband spoke it also. Well, she didn't, sometimes she would try not to let the entity hear what she was saying. So she started to speak to my husband in Topresh, hoping that he would know it. When she would talk in Topresh, the entity would write on the mirror in Topresh. If she spoke in Italian to my husband, he'd answer her in Italian on the mirror. So no matter what language he tried to use, he knew it.
That is the most bizarre story. It's just, oh my God, the story is, what are people saying about your story?
A lot of people say, oh, this can't be true. It is true. It happened. I lived it for 6 years. I know what I lived through. During the time we took pictures, I had over 1,000 pictures of what went on in the house. But unfortunately, people that would come, we'd have one researcher come to the house. They say, take pictures of everything so then we can know what's going on. I'd take pictures of everything. He couldn't help us. The next person that would come would say, now destroy all those pictures because they're keeping the entity in your house. So we destroy all the pictures. Luckily, my husband, unbeknownst to me, instead of throwing away all the pictures, he'd throw part of them in a box. That's when he passed away. I found a box of pictures that I didn't even know we had.
Thank God.
From the entity. Thank goodness he saved them.
Oh,
because
yeah.
The pictures are the most fascinating thing. In the new book, I show over like 130 pictures. And I show the demon writing. And it's just sit there and look at this and know that something that you didn't see, you didn't know what it was communicating with you on the mirror. It's unbelievable.
And nobody can answer anything about any of this that's going on. There's nobody.
Right. Well, nobody. Todd, like I said, Todd Henderson has researched it. I'd welcome anyone that wants to research this, that could give me some answers. I would love it. I mean, it's still a part of my life, 6 years of my life, that is a question mark. I would love to know what happened.
Now, there's also some other pictures that, he wrote a long message on the mirror on this. No integrity, no...
Oh, that's at the end when he was leaving. He was leaving with, believe it or not, one of the researchers that came to our house, he came quite a few times, decided that his life was so miserable, he was going to ask the entity to leave with him. Because we couldn't get rid of the entity. I remember going, it's so complicated, I'm jumping around. But near the end, when one of the reasons why we couldn't get rid of him, one of the people that were investigators that came, she was a doctor of parapsychology, Dr. Evelyn Baglini. She came, she told us that one of the reasons why you can't get rid of this entity is because someone in the house is giving it permission to stay. And we found out that was my father-in-law. My father-in-law was not a very good man. He really wasn't. And he actually wanted my mother-in-law dead.
Oh my God.
So he was actually encouraging the demon to hurt her and letting it stay in the house. So, because my mother-in-law, well, she wasn't wealthy, but she was well off. And he wanted control of everything. So he was, not only did we have a demon in the house, but we had a gentleman in the house, my father-in-law, who was allowing the demon to stay and who was encouraging him to kill my mother-in-law. That's why it gets so complicated. And that's one of the reasons why we couldn't get rid of him. Well, this picture here, I'll explain it again.
Oh.
This was at the end when we got rid of my father-in-law left. And I remember going in and telling Mr. Entity, I said, Mr. Entity, Bill's not here anymore. Bill Sr.'s not here anymore. He's not giving you permission to stay in this house. You don't have permission to stay in this house. You have to go. And he wrote on the mirror, I don't want to leave. It got to the point he started referring to us as his family. We'd go somewhere and he'd say, bye, I'll see you later, my family. Or he told Dr. Baglini, you're lying to my family. Now, I don't know if he meant that he couldn't possibly mean that in an endearing way, because this was an evil, evil creature. I think he meant it my family like we belonged to him.
At what point did he write, I hate you, on the mirror?
He wrote it, I hate Lee.
Oh, I hate Lee.
He always hated Lee. And the reason why, this is another thing that I can explain to you so that it makes more sense. I asked the entity, But one time he attacked my mother-in-law. Now, this was after like 2 years. He attacked my mother-in-law, and I just couldn't take it anymore. For some reason, I was never afraid of the entity. I knew it couldn't hurt me. I know it sounds crazy, what this could do, but I knew deep in my heart the entity couldn't hurt me. So I wasn't afraid of it. He attacked my mother-in-law and locked her in a room, turned the light off, and tried to strangle her. Now, I don't believe he actually could kill her. He needed her to kill herself or to go or do something, or have a heart attack, frighten her to death. That's what I believe, because he had opportunities to really kill her if he could.
So he really...
I went in after we got her out of the pantry, and we saw the marks on her neck, and I was really mad. It gets to the point where you feel so helpless, but you have to stand up for yourself. My husband had a bad heart, so he couldn't protect his mother. My father-in-law wouldn't protect her because he wanted her dead. I had to protect her. So I went into Mr. Entity and I said, all right, this is the way it's going to be. I'm going to treat you with respect. You're going to treat me with respect. You're not going to touch my child. You're not going to touch my husband. And you're not going to touch Lee. And that's the way it's going to be. And I left the room and I came back in and he wrote on the mirror, I will not touch your child. I will not touch your husband. But Lee belongs to me. Now, that's when I said, well, I didn't understand that. Why would Lee belong to him? That's when he wrote, in the next hour, he wrote me a complete story on the mirror of why Lee belonged to him. He said that he had been looking for Lee for a long time, that back, I think it was the 1500s or the 1600s, in a monastery, that his presence was there, and there were monks that practiced Satanism. And they had promised him a blood sacrifice. For some reason, it didn't come to fruition. She didn't get sacrificed. But the person that was supposed to be sacrificed was Lee. And so he felt that just because she wasn't sacrificed then, that she still belonged to him, and he had come to collect her.
Oh, my God. I have another writing on the mirror. This one here. This one says, Evelyn welcomes you.
Okay, that's when Dr. Evan Puglini came. Those are the few times that the dark writing on the mirror is actually my father-in-law's writing. Dr. Puglini called on the phone. She was trying to figure out how to get rid of it. She told him what to write on the mirror. The liar writing on the mirror is Mr. Entity's replies to her in between the things. On the bottom of one, she had him write, God protects us. And Mr. Entity crossed off God and put, Prince protects us.
Oh, I don't think I have a picture of that one.
And then he just that's you, that's the entity writing, and then you lie to my family. So it was like for a month, she would have my father-in-law do some writing, and it almost got like a chess game. She would put one symbol on the mirror, he would put a symbol on the mirror to counter it. But she said, I can't get rid of it. She said it won't, and she was quite powerful from what I understand. She said it doesn't have to go. This is the time after Dr. Puglini came that the entity apported a spearhead from the Belgian Congo that was over 200 years old. My father-in-law, we were all living, like I said, in the one bedroom together. My father-in-law woke up in the middle of the night, kind of made a yell. It was apported under the blanket by his leg. It's ice cold, woke him up.
Tell the viewers about what apport means.
Apport means moving something without any physical means. It just appears. And we used to have those constantly. We'd sit at the dining room table and eat, and there'd be, you'd have some stuff like in the refrigerator that you didn't put on the table. All of a sudden you'd look up and there'd be a jar of pickles sitting on the table that you didn't put there. So, or things, he would bring things like the bell, all different things. I have no idea where these things came from, but they would just appear. And that's what an apport is. It comes from it could come through time, it can come from, that's the picture of the spear, the spirit I was talking about.
Right.
So that's what an apport is. There's no physical movement, but it appears. He apported this, and he wrote on the mirror, this was like in the 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I remember going into the mirror and saying, what is this, Mr. Entity? And he told me, he demanded, I want a blood ritual. And on one mirror, there were 2 mirrors side by side. He wrote that, and then on the other's mirror, he wrote step-by-step instructions what he wanted done in the ritual.
Oh my
and
God.
He wanted my father-in-law to use this spear on my mother-in-law to get the blood for the ritual.
Did you ever have do you have the history on this spear?
We took it at the time. We took it to the Museum of Natural History in Los Angeles. They told us at the time it was over 200 years old. They said, he couldn't believe, he said, this looks like it's brand new, which probably was because Mr. Entity probably went back in time to get it. It's hand-forged, over 200 years old, and he said, by the way it was made, the sides are not sharp. It's only sharp at the point. He said, this spear was not made for hunting. It wasn't made for warfare. This is a type of spear, from the way it's sharpened, is used by shamans or medicine men for rituals.
Oh, that's interesting.
So it's an amazing piece. I took it away from my father-in-law. I went in and told Mr. Entity, you're not getting a blood ritual. I will not let it happen. He got so upset, he blew out all the windows on the top floor of the house.
Oh, my God. I have another picture, Deborah, and on the mirror, is it no escape?
No escape.
Oh, here it is. And at what point did this was just a random message again?
This no escape was near the beginning. This is when he was writing on the mirror upstairs. This was still early in his writings. And he's just letting us know there's no escape. And he was right. For 6 years, there was no escape. No matter what we did, we couldn't. It got to the point where we had to learn to live with it. No one could help us. We were isolated. He made sure we were isolated. He kept people away from us because if my mother-in-law would not let us tell anybody what was going on. She was sure, and she was probably right, because 25 years ago, people were not as open as they are now to the paranormal. Back then, it was very hard to even find someone to help us. Mm-hmm. Now there's so many different programs and people with all these researchers, but back then it was hard. We used to have to go to bookstores, paranormal bookstores, and psychic fairs, trying to find people to help us. So it was hard, and she wouldn't let us tell anybody. And so we became very isolated, and then the entity isolated us because he didn't want us with people. He wanted us just in the house. So it was a very difficult time. But it got to the point, year after year of going through this, it almost became our normal life. You would get up in the morning, I'd talk to Mr. Entity, because if I would talk to him, and after I told him I was going to respect him and he was going to respect me, that's when I started calling him Mr. Entity, because until then, I just called him the entity, or it. I wouldn't call him Prince because I wouldn't give him that respect. I just wouldn't. So at that point, I called him Mr. Entity and showed him some respect because I wanted to be able to try to calm things down. And it did work. When I would talk to him on the mirror, he would use probably all his energy communicating, and there wouldn't be so much destruction in the house. People would say, well, why didn't you take the soap away so he couldn't write on the mirror? I preferred that he wrote on the mirror, because if he was writing on the mirror, he wasn't destroying the house. So it was a trade-off.
The viewers are... tell the viewers what he was using to write on the mirrors.
He used soap. He used the bar of soap. And you could actually see on the soap where it was wearing down.
Now, I have another... Oh, there's the one that has Lee, is it Lee die?
Lee die, yeah. He wanted Lee dead.
Yeah.
Because he said he came to collect her and she had to die.
Then, let's see. I hate Lee. Okay, what about this one, Fools? Is that to say fools?
That was, yeah, he would call us fools. We would try to get people to come and help us, and he'd say, you're fools.
Oh, my God.
All right, at one time, Lloyd Arbeck sent someone named Chris Chacon to come to the house to investigate. When he left, he used a meter, one of those meters, to go around the house and at the mirror, and he couldn't help us. They couldn't help us. I remember asking him, well, what can we do and things? He said, I can tell you there's things that go on in this world you're never going to understand. And he was right, because to this day I still don't understand it. But after he left, the entity wrote on the mirror, you fools, but the machine didn't detect me.
Oh, my God. Yeah, somebody had asked if there was anybody Native American, but again, you were told by a psychic that this was an ancient demon in the house.
But we did have a shaman. Shamans come to the house to try to get rid of it. This was the only time I ever saw what Mr. Entity supposedly looked like. It was a lady and a gentleman. I think he was Fire Panther, and she was Red Wing. And they came to the house, very nice people. We had hundreds of people come to try to help us. Some of them were very strange, not they weren't really good people. Some of the people that came to our house were wonderful people who tried to help. They just couldn't help. They came. They asked me to go upstairs with them because Mr. Entity had said only upstairs. And that's where they were going to find him. So we went upstairs, the three of us together. They had incense and a feather, and they were doing some type of ritual upstairs. And they said, he's in the attic, because that's where, when he first came to this house, that's where he went into the attic. They opened the door to the attic, and they started blowing the incense into the room.
It probably was white sage.
Right. And as they would blow it in, a second later, the entity would blow it out. So you could see it go in, and then you could see it come out.
Oh, my God.
So finally they said, we're going to have to go in and confront it. So they went into the room. I walked in with them right to the doorway, watched in. There was a light in there. They said, we're going to command him to show himself. I stood there and watched this with my own eyes, so I know that we had like insulation on the sides of the roof and of the walls in the attic. The entity took the insulation off the walls, and I just watched as it slowly came off the walls and formed into this gigantic head. And the head was about like 5 feet tall, hooked on the wall. And it was a head with a huge chin, a big nose. I only saw the side view. I didn't see the front. And it wasn't a monster-looking thing. It was disproportioned with a more enormous chin and big nose and really high, sharp cheekbones. And on the side of its head, instead of an ear, there was a horn. And it started in a circle and went up over the top of his head and came out over the forehead.
Oh, my God.
This lasted about, I'd say 30 seconds. And then the insulation slowly just fell to the ground.
After you had seen this entity, did you sit down and draw a picture of him so you could show that to somebody?
As best I could, yes.
Oh, is that in your new book?
Yes, my daughter's an artist. She did the book covers on both books. She drew it and put it in, as one of the pictures in the book.
Have you shown that picture to anybody in the paranormal that could possibly explain what that was?
I showed it to Todd. But they say that it can represent itself looking any way it wants. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it was much help. Mm-hmm. But it certainly was an amazing thing to see.
I bet it was. I bet it scared the hell out of you.
Do you know, that's what's strange about this. There was part of me that was frightened, but not for myself. I was frightened for my family. And then there was a part of me that was an absolute awe of the things it could do and what was going on. It's like, I can't believe this is happening. It's like it's like you're living in a twilight zone.
Oh, wow. And now, this there was okay. So go over the story again about this fella that came to the house, and you told he was having problems, and he told the entity to come home with him. Now, who was that fella again?
I don't want to give his last name. I'll just tell you his first name is Gary. He was a reporter, investigator, wrote books. He had come 2 or 3 times to the house. When he first came to the house, the entity hated Gary. When he first came to the house, he sat down in our family room, and the family room has upstairs, it overlooks like a balcony. And Gary said, okay, show me what you could do. And a book came flying from upstairs and hit him in the side of the head. That was the first interaction between Mr. Entity and Gary. So then, from then on, Gary actually moved in with us for a while. He tormented Gary as much as he tormented my mother-in-law. He did. One time, Gary was sitting at the kitchen table, and we heard like snipping. And all of a sudden, I looked over at Gary, and he put his hand up to his head. The entity was cutting his hair. And he sat there at the table, and you can see pieces of his hair falling to the floor. And I remember he got up and ran outside. But I don't know if there was anything the entity couldn't do.
That is so bad. Were you able to get? I don't know if video cameras were.
No, Mr. Entity. I had to tell him that the camera was my camera. Anything Mr. Entity would not touch my stuff or my husband's things because I told him. And he never bothered the baby. It was after Lee, but he would actually respond. It got to the point where we would talk to each other instead of him talking at us. We would talk. He would tell me stories about past things. I would go in and would talk to him, because like I told you, if I talked to him, it kept the things from being destroyed in the house, and it gave Lee some time to breathe.
So
I would talk to him, and he would use his energy for that. He used to tell me stories about people in the past he had influenced and things he had done.
he was talking back with you.
It was like a conversation. I would say something, I'd go out, I'd come back in, there'd be on the mirror would be the answer. I'd ask something else, I'd leave, I'd come back, there'd be the answer. He would never do it in front of me. But it would be, he could fill up a mirror in seconds.
All right, so he did not communicate with you verbally, it was only in
no.
writing on the
only
mirror.
time I heard Mr. Entity was when we first moved in the house, and we had these two ladies from our area who supposedly were Ghostbusters, who came into the house, who he must have thought were very amusing, because I could hear his laughter from upstairs, like a booming laughter to these ladies. And he actually chased the ladies around the house. He would follow them, and he flipped doors open. They'd go in. He turned the stove on where they were in the kitchen, and the flame went really higher than it could. He just scared the life out of these two ladies. And he thought it was very funny. That was the only time I ever heard him, and he laughed. And that was it. Other than that, the only way he communicated was on the mirror.
And the writing was more or less the same each time he wrote?
No, there was different writings. Most of the time it was printing. Some of the time it was writing, like
it was.
writing.
Oh yeah.
So and one time, twice, there was a different entity or something that came to the house. That when this is going on, you don't know what's real or what he was doing, but it gave the impression on me that it was something else, and it wasn't something bad, it was something good. It wrote on the wall, warning my mother-in-law, and told her, it was a friend of hers, that she had to be careful and things, and then it left. So there were other things that wrote. I don't know if it was Mr. Entity doing it, or it was somebody else, but there was some other writing, but the majority of it was on the mirror.
Now what about this picture? I have a picture here. It looks like a picture maybe of your mother-in-law, and I don't know exactly what it's on. And is it on the floor?
As soon as I see the picture, I'll tell you. It used to like to take the wood from the fireplace, and it would make designs on the floor and put her picture in it. Now, it took a belt buckle and did it. It took pieces of carpet out and put her picture in the middle. It focused on Lee. But the funny thing about the pictures it used, these were pictures when she was a young woman, and they had been boxed and put away in the garage. And all of a sudden they would appear in the living room in these symbols that he would make.
Oh my God. Can we talk about... okay, so I wanted to ask you again about these other objects that were reported in your home, like the bell...
Mm-hmm.
The pendulum or the pendant.
Yeah, it started bringing me gifts. After I confronted it and we started talking, it started bringing me gifts. It brought a necklace. I love rocks, and I don't mean just like diamonds and rubies. I just like rocks. There are rocks outside. For some reason, I like rocks. So it would always bring me rocks, and it would put them in my bathroom next to my sink. It would bring me all kinds of presents. And
did you have them checked out to see if there was any historical value or meaning to them?
No, I didn't. Like I said, we were so isolated, and it wasn't like there were people that could help us at that time. I mean, there was no one I could go to. We were kind of alone in this because of not being able to open up to people around us. I mean, one time we went to a friend's house when this first started, and the entity took the gentleman's wallet and took it to our house. Now, how could we go back to this gentleman to his house and say, we have your wallet? He would put us in predicaments that made us so uncomfortable that we isolated ourselves.
Oh, God. So this entity left with Gary?
Right. Gary told me, he said, my life's a mess. He said, this entity is very powerful. One of the reasons that Gary felt this way is Dr. Paglini, when she left, she told us she wanted us, she said, you're not going to be able to get rid of this entity. This is what I'm telling you to do. You could do to save your mother-in-law. What you'll have to do is give it a room and pay it homage. If you pay this entity homage, not only will it not hurt your mother-in-law, but it will probably make your lives much better. well, we weren't going to pay homage to a demon. She didn't say this because she wanted us to do this. She said this because she felt that was the only way that we could save my mother-in-law. But we didn't do that. Well, Gary heard that. So near the end of the 6th year it was with us, his life was falling apart. So he said, I'm going to go to the entity, tell him I'm leaving here. He can come with me. And I said, well, why would you want to do that? That's crazy. He said, well, my life's a mess, and this entity is so powerful. If I pay it homage and I let it come with me, maybe it'll change my life. Well, Mr. Entity, I remember going in and saying, okay, Mr. Entity, you have to go with Gary now. And he wrote, I do not want to leave. And I said, you have to go. And then I said, why don't you want to go with Gary? That's when he said, because Gary has the one picture you just had, Gary has no integrity, no, the list of things he put down. And I always thought, how strange if this was a demon, and yet he wanted a person he went with to have all these high morals. How strange.
Yeah, I'll say it is. And what happened to Gary?
The entity finally left with him. That's how we got rid of the entity. I said, you have to go, Mr. Entity. So the last day he said, it's time for us to go now. He used to call Gary Marcel because he knew him from a past life. He said, it was time for us to go, Marcel. You are my servant now. And he said, the last day he was here, he wrote on the mirror, goodbye, my family. And I said, goodbye, Mr. Entity. And from that day, I've never had anything else. He's never come back. Nothing has ever happened in the house again. It's completely normal.
Oh, my God. Is Gary alive today?
Yes.
And how is he doing?
It's hard to say with Gary. I don't believe the entity stayed with him. I don't think so. I think when he went to England, the entity left him. Well, I kept in contact with Gary. Mm-hmm. At first, he said when he moved into his new apartment, the entity put the triangle with the tail over his door, so he knew at that time he was with him. But then when I started to ask Gary more questions about it, he didn't want to talk about it. But Gary's life is not so wonderful that you would think he had a friendly demon living with him. So I don't believe the demon stayed with him. The demon did not like Gary. But Gary's life is not a good life. He started to drink, and so I think he's in Spain now living.
Did Gary? So you wouldn't even know if Gary tried to get any help or tried to get rid of this entity?
No, I don't believe he did. He wanted it with him. So I don't think if the entity left, he left because he wanted to, not because Gary didn't want him with him.
Did one of the viewers are asking, were there any smells or cold spots happening in the house?
Because this happened for so long, I forget to tell people, but yes, there were horrible smells. The smell of rotting food, the smell of the excrement. We even had sulfur smells. We ran the gauntlet of every paranormal thing that happens. The only thing I don't remember happening that people talk about when they have things like this is cold spots. I don't remember any cold spots. So I don't remember that. But smells, pounding, clawing. We were infested with rats. We had birds ramming the windows. I mean, we had everything that could happen.
Royce, I think she answered that. Royce is saying, would love to know if the entity moved to someone else or left forever. But you're saying that Mr. Entity may have left Gary?
I think that's my own opinion. I don't know, because Gary wouldn't talk about it afterwards. But I don't think he stayed with Gary. I just don't.
Well, where do you think?
But I know he didn't come back here because for now 27 years, nothing. Peaceful as could be. Thank God.
Did you ever have the house blessed after he left?
We had the house blessed and cleansed again, yes.
And then nothing happened while the...
Nothing. And nothing has happened. And I've had people come since and say to me, oh no, this house is nice. This is the only things you have here now are good things protecting you. So I know it's you can just walk through the house and it feels wonderful.
My God. Have you gotten any more articles or reports coming into the home?
Nothing. After he said, goodbye, my family, from that point on, and for the next 2 years, my mother-in-law and our children, we all slept in the same room for like 2 years afterwards. Because once something like this happens, you're so programmed to things happening, you're waiting for them to happen. So when he first left, we always thought, oh, he'll be back. But he didn't. And so it took like 2 years for us to really get back to normal. Up until that point, we still stayed in one room together. And then slowly, everybody started going to their own rooms. But it took a while to get back to normal. And then we're never really back to normal. My husband, till the day he died, couldn't sleep in the dark. He always had to have a light on. I mean, it was just, it's almost like you're scarred in a way.
Interesting. And you're still in the same home?
Oh, yes.
Still in the same
well,
home?
I wasn't going to let the demon take my house.
Did your mother-in-law eventually pass away?
Yes, she did. She passed away in 2012. She was a wonderful woman. Just a wonderful woman. I remember because I would always tell him, no, you can't hurt her. You're not your leader. And he used to always dance and he used to write in the mirror, you get in my way.
Wow. I'm surprised they haven't made a movie out of your story, or someone has contacted you. I know you've done other is this the first one you've done on your new book, Welcome?
No, I think I did one about a month ago when it was still in the writing stage. But this is the first one I've done since it's going to be released tomorrow. You can get it on Amazon.
Oh,
Welcome.
awesome!
Deadly Haunt. The true story of the Moffitt haunting.
Oh, yeah.
But it's going to be released tomorrow.
Wow.
And the best thing about the new book is the pictures. I wish that now you have to understand about the pictures. This was back 25 years ago. I took them with a flash camera. It wasn't like now that you take them with a digital camera, and if the picture's not good, you take another picture. I didn't know. I'd take a picture. I didn't know I was going to come out till they were developed. So sometimes the pictures have a flash in them, or they're not centered properly. But I was just trying to gather evidence to show people what was happening. But the pictures are absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
They're just amazing. You can see what he had to say. They're amazing pictures. Sometimes, one of the pictures that's the most amazing picture. Now, the mirrors that we had in the bathroom were bolted to the wall. They were never taken out of the bathroom until I redid the bathroom a few years ago. Mm-hmm. One of the pictures, I'm taking a picture in the bathroom. Now, I'm in the bathroom taking the picture. And I take when I get the picture developed, instead of the bathroom being reflected in the back of the picture, you know how if you see in the picture the back of the bathroom is reflected.
Uh-huh.
The kitchen is shown. Now the kitchen is a long way away from the bathroom. There's no way it can reflect.
Oh.
And it shows the kitchen, and I'm taking a picture from the bathroom. It's the most, I look at that picture and I think, what? How can this happen? But it actually shows me a picture of the kitchen in my background.
Oh my God, that's really strange.
It is. A couple of the pictures will have writing, and the writing, most of the time, I say 99.9% of the time, it was facing so you could read it. But like 2 pictures I have, it's like written backwards on the other side of the mirror, like you're looking in. And it's not. It's like you can't read it because it's like backwards and away from you.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
It really, truly is. I think about it at the time, it was horrible to go through. It was a terrible time in my life, but it was an enlightening time in my life. I think back at it now because it's been 25 years since I had to go through it, and I can look back at it differently than experiencing it. And I look back and I think, what a truly amazing 6 years. I touched the other side, the other side communicated with me. Things that I couldn't see. Ports were brought from different dimensions. All kinds of things that I experienced. And I think, in a way, I'm almost glad that I experienced it now that it's so far in the past. At the time, no, I didn't want to go through it. But now I look back at it and I think, oh my goodness, what I went through, it's the most amazing thing. This is something else he afforded to me. He gave me this as a gift. This, like a pendulum type necklace.
Oh, that was a gift that he gave to you?
Yeah.
Oh, I have.
He used to. We'd go to stores. We'd go to a paranormal shop to try to find people to help us. And I would comment on something. Like I'd say to my husband, "Oh, I like this." And then there was a jade, which was a pyramid, which was very pretty. And I remember thinking, "Isn't that pretty?" And it was like $200. And I wasn't going to buy it anyway, but it was so pretty. I came home and he brought it and put it on my sink and gave it to me.
Oh my God. I'm showing a picture of this pendant. With a blue face.
Yeah, it almost looks African to me, which is because, like, even when I asked him before we went to the museum, where did you get this spear? And he told me, the Congo. And then they reaffirmed it that it was from the Belgian Congo.
Did they
So,
have?
I don't know. It's like I said, I have no answers.
Did they say how old?
I would love to have some answers.
Is this an antique? Did they say how old this pendant might have been?
I never even had anyone look at it.
Oh, really?
Because it was to me, it was just a pendant. Didn't look expensive or really old. Because he would give things from when we'd go to different places. So I don't think that was old. I know the spear is old because we took it to a museum. But most of the things he would bring me as gifts didn't look that old.
What about your children?
They were young at the time. My oldest at the time was born in '87, so he was just a baby. The twins were born in 1990, so they were just babies. So they don't have any recollection of this. As a matter of fact, when Mr. Entity left, living in the house were myself, my husband, and our children. My husband and my mother-in-law and I, we said, we will never bring this up again. Because you're brainwashed into thinking if you talk about it, it's going to bring it back. So we said, we'll never talk about this. So for 25 years until my mother-in-law died, we never spoke about it. We didn't talk about it. We never mentioned it. So my children didn't even know what had happened. I told my children about it when I found the pictures when my husband died in the closet. I didn't even know they were there. And I started looking at them, and I brought back all the memories. And my children said, well, what are these? And then I told them what had happened. Up until that point, they didn't even know what had happened.
Was there a lot of arguing going on in the home at the time?
My father-in-law was a very mean man. And he always had to have his own way. So there was some hostility and hate. My father-in-law, emanating from my father-in-law. I absolutely adored my mother-in-law, and my husband and myself got along great. So the three of us, we leaned on each other for support. My father-in-law, no, he was not a good person, and he would cause arguments and cause problems happening. He was the type of man that would cause an argument between people, step back, and then watch people argue. That's the type of person he was.
He could have had an attachment.
Yeah, he was not a good person. Well, when the Warrens came, the entity actually went into him. He was possessed for a while. So it was, so many, I can remember only half the things that happened during that 6 years. Because for 6 years it wasn't just like once a week Mr. Entity would do something. It did things from the time we woke up in the morning to the time we went to bed, and even while we were sleeping, he was doing things. So it was non-stop.
The entity entered your father-in-law?
Yes, we had the Warrens. Ed and Lorraine Warren came to our house. They brought a gentleman who videotaped, which everything they videotaped, but they won't give me, I tried to contact them to see if they have any of the videotapes left of when they came here, because I would love to see them, but they won't respond. They videotaped Ed Warren. We went in the living room together. My mother-in-law and the baby stayed in the other room. My husband, Gary, Ed and Lorraine Warren, and the guy's name, I think, was Kevin, who was recording everything, went into the living room, sat in a semicircle, and he performed the rite of provocation. And I remember he sat there and he did prayers, and my father-in-law was sitting next to me. Now, when he changed, I don't mean you look at him and he was like a different person, but he changed. One arm curled up to his chest. It's like he bent over like he was hunched back, and he stood up and he started walking towards Ed Warren. He dragged his leg. It was like looking at my father-in-law, but twisted. And he spoke in my father-in-law's voice, but it was different. It was the same voice, but a different timbre. And I remember he went to Ed Warren, and Ed Warren had a little piece. He said it was a holy relic of the cross, and he held it up in front of my father-in-law's face. And my father-in-law said to him, he said, "You can't hurt me. I have this, and this protects me." And I remember my father-in-law saying, "I'll bite off your hand, chew up that piece of cross, and spit it in your face."
Oh my God!
And I remember he turned around and looked at Gary, and then he went back and sat down next to me. And then he slowly went back to normal. It was amazing.
That is freaky.
It was. It was scary, you know. The things that happened, even though I wasn't afraid that the entity could hurt me, still the things that happened were very creepy and very strange. I mean, one time my mother-in-law, we were in the bedroom together, and my husband had blown up a big balloon for my son, and we left it in the living room. And it was a regular balloon. And all of a sudden the door opens up, and this balloon comes in all by itself and goes over to my mother-in-law. Now, that's not scary, but when you watch the door open by itself, and this big balloon come in with no one holding it, that's just not full of helium, and it floats in and goes to your mother. Some of the things were frightening to watch.
How many times did the Warrens come to the home?
They came here once, because at the time they didn't have any contacts in California. They came out here to visit someone, and they introduced us to a gentleman that was Chuck Moses from Los Angeles, that was a researcher or something in the paranormal field. They came out here. They wouldn't stay at our house. We had to put them up in a hotel, and they came here for like 3 or 4 days trying to help us. They were very nice. Ed Warren you could sit and talk to Ed Warren for hours. He was a very nice man. Lorraine Warren was a little standoffish, but she was like, more into herself. Both of them were very nice people. They tried to help, but like he said, they didn't have any contacts out in California, and he couldn't get rid of it himself. So all they did was try to offer us some support.
How many hours did they spend at your home?
Oh, they were here for 3 days.
Oh, okay.
Probably 4 or 5 hours a day.
Oh, okay. Did they ever check up with you after they left?
No.
Interesting.
No, they didn't.
But yet they had...
I remember they did tell us if we thought we needed them, and feel free to call them again. But, they were back on the East Coast. There was nothing they could do. They were nice. They did try to help. I would say nothing wrong about at least they came to try to help us. They just couldn't do it.
Oh, God. That is some story, Deborah. Some story.
It's an amazing story.
It is. It really is. And again, viewers, I aired a show with Deborah, I think it was last year, and I am going to put the link to that show on this one. So when anybody comes to this one, right on the front, there'll be an annotation. You can click on it and go to the first show that I did with Deborah. It was it's one of my highest rated shows. Deborah, your story is just amazing. I really would love somebody to do a movie on your story. I think it would bypass The Conjuring.
It's an amazing story, and I have the photographs and the spear. Anytime you're in California, feel free to visit. I'd love to show you the pictures and have you look at the spear.
Oh, I live in California.
You're most welcome to visit.
I live in California. Where do you live?
When we get off the air, I'll give you my address.
I'll bring Dave Spinks with me. He's the number one paranormal investigator.
Feel free to come. I mean, I'd love to tell. I have to tell you, I like telling the story. It was bottled up inside for so long that I couldn't tell anybody. And it's like, I want to tell you, look at this these things happen. It's not pretend. It's not make-believe. They happen. I lived it. I know.
Oh, my God. While the Mr. Entity was in your home, did you pray?
Yeah, we prayed. I remember one time we were reading the Bible, and Mr. Entity wrote on the mirror, the Bible is God's fairy tale.
Oh, that's what he said?
Yeah, and he referred to holy water as God's piss.
Oh, my God. Wow, you're lucky.
Mm-hmm.
You were really lucky. He caused no harm to you.
I know I am, but I knew it couldn't hurt me, and I knew someone had to protect my mother-in-law, and I wasn't going to let them have the house or my mother-in-law. So I think I had God at my back, so I was protected.
What do you think would have happened if Gary didn't come along and ask Mr. Entity to go with him? What do you think?
You know what? I think he would have left. He didn't want to leave, but at the time, the person that had given him permission to be in the house was gone. Because my mother-in-law actually kicked him out of the house. It got to the point she had to survive. because we couldn't get rid of Mr. Entity as long as he was living in the house because he was giving it permission to stay.
Well, then why didn't your father-in-law was communicating with him as well in the bathroom?
Right, I found out, and you know how I found out? Mr. Entity told me. Mr. Entity would say to me, he comes in here and talks to me. He wants me to continue to hurt her. He wants me to kill her.
And yet your father-in-law didn't tell you that.
Oh no, he pretended he never communicated with it. But Mr. Entity would write on the mirror. He wiped the mirror so you didn't know what I was saying.
Well, why didn't Mr. Entity go with your father-in-law?
You know what? Because he wanted my mother-in-law. He didn't want my father-in-law. He still wanted my mother-in-law. He felt that she belonged to him. So he wanted her.
But the thing is, your mother-in-law was still alive when he went with Gary.
I know. I realize that. But I remember saying to the entity, "You're not going to get my mother-in-law. You're not," because I was not going to let him touch her. Anything I could do, I would do. And for some reason, he said, "Okay, then he had to leave." I said, "You have to go." He said, "I don't want to go. I want to stay here." At that point, when you took away the permission for him to be in the house, I think maybe somebody could have got rid of him, and he knew it. So then he had the opportunity to leave with someone, and he did.
So you had paranormal investigators come in. He did chase two ladies out.
Right.
Did you have more than those two ladies?
We had one come in that used eggs to put around the house, and Mr. Entity, he was up in the upstairs, and he put his eggs around. He was standing doing some type of ritual, and the entity threw all the eggs at him. We had another one come and was another one doing a house cleansing with the sage, and it took she had a seashell, and it took it and pressed it against her arm and burned her arm.
I bet they left real fast.
Oh, they did. The one with the egg, he just went running out of the house. A lot of people came to the house, and we would tell them what was happening. A lot of people came, I believe. Some of them were charlatans. They would come, and I think they hoped, because they think, well, this isn't real. So they would pretend they did something, and they'd say, okay, he's gone, and we'd pay them some money, and they'd leave, and they'd be,
You had to pay them?
Pardon?
You had to pay them?
Oh, a lot of them we had to pay.
Oh,
yeah.
My. Did you have
and
to
when
pay?
we didn't have to pay them, a lot of them we had to pay expenses. But the really good ones, like the Lloyd Arbeck, we didn't have to pay anything for what he spent, or from the university, or a lot of them. But the ones that we went around that had advertisements to try to get rid of things, oh yeah, you had to pay for them.
Oh.
And a lot of them didn't even believe, but you just knew they were just putting on an act. But we tried everything. There wasn't going to be something we didn't try, because we were desperate.
I don't remember. Was your story on one of those paranormal shows?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you might have been on Paranormal Witness or one of those shows.
I don't think they could, because the story is so complicated. It's so hard to tell. When you have to read it to understand step by step what happened, it's so complicated. It'd be very hard to explain in just a short TV segment.
Well, I know that they have done shows on incidents that happened years before.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you contacted them, but I really think that you should be on one of those shows, Deborah.
Yeah, but right now I'm just finished this book, which is the other book. It came out, and then my daughter got injured, and I kind of dropped it. And I couldn't, because I was too worried about my daughter. She was what mattered. But she's feeling better. That's why I did the second book. And so this one I'm going to try to make sure everybody reads it or knows what happened, because I think it's very important that people understand it.
Mm-hmm. Do you go into your story again with the pictures?
Yeah. I put the pictures, and there's like captions under them.
Oh, that's
so
good.
The book I think the book is like 300 pages. And I write it, and there's a few pictures scattered through the beginning of the book, and then at the back, there's like 25 pages of just pictures. Oh,
jeez. Well, I had some good pictures tonight to show, and which were pretty awesome.
The pictures they're fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Okay. To think that this entity could communicate like that.
All right, I have a viewer. I think she came in late. How far back in time does the entity talk about as thought he was there?
Well, the entity talked about a time he told me about I think it was the 1600s, when he had the blood ritual was the first time that she was promised to him. He also told me about like Cardinal Richelieu and Madame Newberry. He would tell me stories about different people from the past that he influenced.
Really?
Yeah. He told me things I won't even talk about because it's just some of the things he told me are so amazing. It's just better, like trying to explain things to people is just too hard.
Oh no,
so
come
there's
on!
Parts that I don't even talk about.
Hey, you got an audience here. My viewers love that kind of stuff. Tell us. We're all ears.
Some of the things, especially having to do with the spear. He told me this spear is a magical antiquity that can be used. It's not the spear itself. You know, someone who uses it has to know ritual magic to use it. But the things that this spear can do, that's why I've protected it. Because the entity can't take it away from me. And so, but the things that this spear is capable of doing, he told me, are absolutely, I wouldn't even go into it. I wouldn't want people to know. Why?
Tell us.
No, I really don't. I don't even want to talk about it.
Oh.
It's better left unsaid.
Really?
Yeah. There's a lot of things that he would talk about that are just better left unsaid.
Is it in a good way or a bad way?
Some good, some not with the spear. With the spear, it's bad.
Oh, with the spear, it's bad?
Yeah, the spear has the capacity to do things that would be bad.
Well, why did he give it to you then?
He didn't. He gave it to my father-in-law to use for the ritual.
Oh, that's right.
Because the spear had to be used for the blood ritual for him to do what he wanted to do.
Oh, I can imagine what that spear was used for.
Yeah, so I took the spear, and he will not touch my things. So I took it, and like I said, I've protected it to this very day.
Now, some of the things that have, all these things that have been apported, has any of them disappeared?
No. Once he gave them to me, they were mine.
Okay.
He never touched anything that was mine. And the knives, no. Once he stuck them in a wall or booby-trapped them, now he just left them.
And those knives, are there any historic meaning to those knives, or are they just old knives?
Just old knives. Some were new, some were old. We ended up just throwing things away because we threw so much evidence away because we were told to. Throw it away. If you keep it, you're keeping the entity there. So things that people could study now to try to understand it are gone. And it's so sad that we were so frightened at the time that we threw away things.
That's really, that really is too bad, because that's your evidence.
Yeah. Thank God my husband sent some pictures with the negatives, because at least I have the pictures to show people, and I kept the spear.
Now, I have a picture of the bed all torn apart. Is that the day you were looking for the pictures, or?
No, that was my mother and father-in-law's bed. The entity just sliced it to pieces.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my God.
And this entity loved water also. I remember one time we had we have a second floor and the steps going up. I went out, I heard like water running. We were watching television. And all of a sudden I look and the kitchen's flooded. And I walked very gingerly, I start yelling for help, to the stairway. And on our stairway was actually, it looked like a waterfall, like you see on the side of mountains, waterfalls, coming out of the third stair up from the top. Like a waterfall coming down the step.
Oh my God.
It was like unbelievable. I remember going into the entity and saying, "Please, Mr. Entity, stop it, stop it." And he did, just like a click of a switch, the water stopped coming out. Of course, it didn't dry up the damage it already did. Our house was flooded, but it just turned off.
One of the viewers was asking, was a Ouija board ever used in your home?
No, but that's a good question because the gentleman that moved into my mother-in-law's mother's house when she rented it, he used a Ouija board because he asked my husband, did anybody die in this house? And my husband asked him, well, why do you ask? He said, well, I'm talking to somebody on a Ouija board. And when Mr. Entity first started writing on the mirror upstairs, he wanted us to use the Ouija board. He put board or burn.
Oh.
So a Ouija board did play a part in this somehow. We didn't use it, but somebody that lived in the house where it all started did.
You know, you had a story that you told me on the last show about a girl and then she disappeared.
Oh, yeah, Michelle.
Oh, tell us about that.
Okay, after this other gentleman moved out of the house and we had all the paranormal things that happened in the house, like I said, he moved out, the one where the sports memorabilia earlier was. We went to clean the house, and we started getting paranormal things. He would move chairs. We'd go in one room, and he'd move the furniture from one room into another room before we could come back. Things like that. But then everything kind of stopped, so we thought, well, it's gone, whatever it is. So we'll re-rent out the house. Well, we rented it out to an older gentleman and a younger woman. They were nice. I think my husband even jokingly said to them, the house is very reasonable because it's haunted. He was trying to let them know just in case, but they took it as a joke, so they moved in. When they first moved in, everything was fine. They were very nice people. I used to talk to Michelle, that was right next door. When I'd go out in the yard, I'd talk to her. And then I noticed that she didn't want to talk to me. And one day I came out, and she was kind of hiding behind a bush, and you could see she had been beaten. She had a black eye, and her lip was split, and I asked her what was going on. She said that when they moved into the house, her boyfriend completely changed. He had become very abusive and mean. And I said, well, you have to get away from him. She said, don't worry, I can take care of myself. That was the last time I ever saw her. A couple weeks later, I hadn't seen her at all, and he was out in the yard, and I asked him, I said, well, where's Michelle? I haven't seen her. He said, she left me. She left. And a week later, he gave notice, and he was gone, like in a day. He just moved out. We went up to the house to clean it out. It was spotless. He had scrubbed everything. It had been bleached, scrubbed, cleaned. It was beautiful. It was so clean. But we weren't going to rent it out anymore because we were going to be moving. So we decided, just leave it. A week or so later, no, it was a month or so later, a gentleman pulled into that driveway, and a guy came out and started knocking at the door. And I was out in the yard, and I said, no one lives there anymore. He said, well, you know where Tom went? I said, I don't know. They moved out about a month ago. He said, did you happen to hear what happened to Michelle? That was the name of the lady that lived there with Tom. I said, no, what happened to her? He said, they found her dead, wrapped in a throw rug in a landfill. And the funny thing was, one of our throw rugs was missing from the house when we went back in. But I couldn't prove this. I remember going back to my family and saying, oh my God, could this have happened? My husband, now, he read all newspapers and news. He said he didn't read anything. But the gentleman never told me where the landfill was, if it was in our area, if it was someplace else. But that was the last we ever heard of Michelle, and the gentleman said she had been murdered.
Oh my God, and what happened to, his name was Tom?
Tom. He left. I don't know. I don't know what happened to him. Everything was just gone. She was gone. I couldn't prove anything. I wanted to go say, to the police, I don't know if this is true, but this is what I was told. But no, my mother-in-law said, no, you don't want to have anything to do with it. We don't know what happened. Just keep out of it. So I was overruled.
Oh my God. And they were gone. Who rented the house after that?
No one. We had decided to buy a house and move to a bigger house and sell the 3 properties. One story, that's another amazing thing that happened. The very last day that we were moving, we put the houses on the market. We bought a new house. That's the one we live in now. We were moving, but it was so close. It's only like 6 miles up the hill that we would move a little bit at a time. The last day, my mother-in-law and I were down there by ourselves. It was during the daytime. We were in the bedroom, and I remember there was one last box to pick up, and we heard like an explosion in the kitchen. We ran into the kitchen. Now, up until this time, you have to understand, until this time, the day we were moving, Mr. Entity had shown no hostility, no evilness, nothing. It was just more of paranormal happenings, like a port and moving things. We go in the kitchen, and he had ripped off the cupboards on the walls in the kitchen. He had literally ripped them off the walls and threw them on the floor. While we're in the kitchen, we hear another noise. We go back in the bedroom, and he blew out all the windows in the bedroom.
Oh my God.
So that night, unfortunately, I hate to talk about this, we left the dog down there for the night till we could pick it up the next morning, and he took the dog and he pulled it through a wrought iron fence 3 inches wide.
Oh no, I
can't even.
I don't want to hear it. Really.
It's the saddest thing.
Oh
and
my God.
Oh, absolutely horrible what he did.
Oh my.
I guess he was mad we were moving, but you couldn't think that this poor dog could be pulled through it, but it was.
Oh my God.
It was horrible.
Oh my God. Oh my God. That's just terrible.
It wasn't evil. It was an intelligent being, and you could tell by it was ancient, but it was evil. It was an evil being. It wasn't, it could talk to it and communicate, but it was evil. It could pretend it wasn't, but it was.
Oh my God. Oh, God, it's just too bad that entity can't go back where it came from. If somebody could, I would love to know where it's at, what it's doing, if it's doing harm to anybody else, or if somebody sent them back.
I would love to know if anybody else has ever seen this triangle with the tail, what it means, who it is associated with. I would just love to know that.
Me too. We would love to know as well. And now a shaman was there, so it wasn't any Native American symbol.
No, there wasn't. They didn't recognize it. It did all kinds of symbols. So in the new book, the pictures will show all the different symbols it did. It did a lot of different symbols.
Now, you said that you sold those 3 properties and you're in another home.
We sold those 3 properties. We had hoped at the time. We didn't move intentionally to get away from the entity because we had planned to move before that. Because we always knew we were going to go to a bigger house together. But maybe that hurried us up a little bit. We put them up on the market. We lived in our new house. About 6 months later, we sold them. Now, this is another strange thing. This is on the corner of Archibald and Arrow Highway in Rancho Cucamonga. It's a very busy street, prime property. This large lot, I mean, it's huge. 3 houses were there, and then there was an empty lot on the corner that we didn't own, but it was all hooked together. Till this day, this is 27 years later, nothing has been built on that land. They tore the houses down immediately.
All 3 houses were torn down?
They tore them down within a month's time. They were torn down. And for 27 years, nothing has been developed on this corner. You've got fast food places. You've got apartments over here. You've got business offices here. A school across the street. But this choice property just sits there and rots.
Oh my God! You know what? You should have taken a picture of that and put that in your book.
You know what I was going to, and I forgot.
Oh, how could you do that?
I know, isn't that stupid?
Oh my God!
You can drive down there today and look. And I go by there and I think, isn't that strange? All this time, and it just sits here.
Oh my God, Deborah! How could you not think of that?
I know. I thought of it, and then I got busy doing something, and I forgot to take the picture.
Oh my God! No, the entity did not follow her. The entity is gone. The entity is gone.
It followed us when we moved from those houses to the new house. But after that, when it left and said goodbye for 27 years now, it's gone.
Oh, thank God it's gone. I just hope it's not doing harm to anybody else.
I hope so too.
Oh.
I hope so. But I doubt it because it's out there.
Yeah. Deborah, thank you so much. Let's show the pictures of your 2 books again and tell the viewers where they can get the books.
Tomorrow it comes out on Amazon, so that'll be the first place it's available. And thank you so much for having me on. I enjoy telling people about this. I want people to know what can happen. And I want them most of all to know, don't keep it to yourself. Don't be afraid to tell people, because part of the scarring and the hurt and pain that happened to us was because we isolated ourselves. So if anything happens, don't be afraid to tell people what's going on. I wish we had.
Deborah, it is a fascinating story, and thank you again for sharing with my viewers because we loved it.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, thank you so much, Deborah. Best wishes to you, and I hope the word gets out there. You know, George Norrie, I bet he would love to have you on Coast to Coast. I believe that you can send him a message and send him your story. And he...
Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll send him a copy of the book. And like I said, remember, if you want to come visit, you're welcome to come.
I'll ask Dave.
Just give me an email and we'll arrange it.
Oh, thanks, Deborah. Thank you so much.
Thank you and good night.
Good night. Thank you, Deborah. Again, it was a pleasure to have you on the show as always. Your story is just awesome, and I wish you the best of luck with your new book. And I believe the sales on her first book is also doing very well. Oh gosh. Well, everybody, October 1st, first show of the Halloween season, and everybody, thank you so much for being on the show. actually watching my show tonight. We got over 70 people tonight, and it was just awesome. I really enjoy it. I love having you come to my shows and bringing you fabulous guests like I did. And you're only going to hear these on Paranormal Zone TV, right? Yes, on Do You Believe? Thank you so much to my moderators as well. Now, next week, next Thursday, my guest is Karen A. Dahlman. This woman is so educated. She has I have the write-up actually on the event that's on my YouTube page. Anyway, she's a Ouija board expert, and she's been communicating with the spirits for years on the Ouija board. So I'm really anxious I can't wait to have her on the show. I think it's going to be a fascinating show. And then on the 15th, don't forget, Steve Stockton, who is the author of Strange Things in the Woods, and he's got some scary stories to tell us. Then on the 22nd of October, guess what? It's Jack the Ripper, but it's Jack the Ripper of Atlanta, Georgia. They are unsolved murders, and his focus was on African American women, and he used to slice them up. So I hope you enjoy that one as well. It'll be Jack the Ripper of Atlanta, Georgia. And then the last show for the month of October, Heather Lynn. She is an archaeologist, and she's written many books, but the book we're going to talk about on the 29th is Evil Archaeology. She's going to talk about demons and the jinn and haunted objects. Can these objects really be haunted? And that should be also a fun show. So everybody, I want to thank you so much. I'm going to do shout outs. So let's start with Janet McWilliams, Maria Amador, Diane Zeman Marks, Royce, thank you so much. Hinman for being a moderator. Butterfly Kisses. Jill Forrett. Country Roads Paranormal, my buddy. Mike Griffin Cochran. Yay. Jamelia Casti. F Warrior. Renee Rates. Para Princess Patricia. Lynn Bowling. B Singer 11. Janet Wolf. Crystal, oh gosh, wait a minute, you guys are going too fast. Oh my God, I've lost it now. I can't get back here. You guys went so fast. Justin Elias, hey Justin. Margarita Harvorth. Nicole Burnett, yay, you made it. Nicole's getting married soon. Congratulations. Unique Sweet Annie. Chippa Terry. Renee Rates. Michael Allen Phillips. Thanks, Michael. Al, oh my God, Al, you made a live show. I can't believe it. Yay. Justin Elias, yes, Justin, my buddy. Tie-Dye Keith, oh my God, my old friend Tie-Dye Keith, we've been friends for years. Danella Angel, Jesse Machuca, Deb Gale, Chilling with Me, Whitney Van Slyke, Ty B, Kathy Salento. I always want to think of Cilantro. Salento. I love cilantro. Joker's Son. Oh gosh. Okay. Cordova. I have a hard. I can't pronounce your first name. You're gonna have to. I can't. I'm sorry. H. Cordova, I'm sorry. I can't pronounce your first name. I really apologize. Trent Bennett. Yay, Trent. Anybody else want to shout out? Al Bluesfish. My God, you haven't been on the show for so long. Mr. Conan. And my buddy Dave Spinks of Country Roads Paranormal TV. Don't forget to go to his website. He is one of the most awesome paranormal investigators. He is the best. He is extremely professional. And okay, I will. And he gets EVPs like nobody. I've never heard anything like it. And on those ghost apps, oh my God. It's awesome. So Country Roads Paranormal on YouTube. Check out his channel, please. Any Oakwood Willows. Thank you, Paul Chevalier. I haven't seen you around in a long time, Paul. Neo Cordova. Is that it? Oh, Stephen Harp. Hi, Stephen. Oh, anybody else want to shout out? Did I miss anybody? Elaine Michael. Oh, Lily. Yay, Lily. Hi, Lily. We got a great chat room. Crystal Triplet, that's it. Yes, Dave rocks. He's my bud. He's my bud. Hey, Royce, when you get a chance, I'd love to talk to you on the phone as well. I did email you a message, and if you can give me your phone number, I don't know if I still have it or not. Martha Hyatt. Lily Vela Lobos. I did, yay. Quizzle. Hi, Quizzle. I haven't seen you for a while either. Hey, don't forget, my shows, The Unseen Scene. Every Thursday, I'm here live at 6 o'clock. Unless something happens, like it did a couple of weeks ago, I am here. Mary Dallas. Yes, Mary Dallas. Amanda Merritt. Oh, hi, Amanda. Thank you for coming to the show. Anybody else want to shout out? All right, don't forget, I'm really looking forward to the show next week. Ouija board expert, and she is highly educated. Read the about on her on my event on the front page of my channel. She is, her credentials are absolutely amazing. Again, she's been communicating with spirits for years on the Ouija board. So I'm going to find out her story, and she'll talk to us and tell us all about it. Thanks. Noia. Okay. So you guys have a great weekend. Be safe. Enjoy the fall season that we have, and enjoy your Halloween October month. There's lots of scary movies out there, and I'm always up for scary movies. All right, Justin. All right, everybody. So, yeah, and don't forget, check out my friend Dave Spinks, Country Roads Paranormal TV. He's got one awesome show, some of the best paranormal investigating shows you'll ever see on YouTube. He rocks. Okay, Royce, thanks. I'd like to talk to you. And Al Blue's Fish again. It's been a long time, and I'm so happy to see you in the chat room. And my unique Annie. Okay, everybody, thanks so much for joining, and I will see you next week, okay? Don't forget. Thanks, everybody. Good night.